And coming up on the Marty Mariner show today was the return of the front three. Yes, Carly, Mel and Hayley are back, all in the same studio. Well, virtually all in the same studio. Anyway, we're going to talk all the big news today, and it's all coming out of the Central Coast Mariners. A women's team will be entered into the competition in 23-24. How exciting is that? Absolutely can't wait for that myself. And we are so fortunate. Carly, one of our panel members, was very much at the forefront of getting this off the ground in her days at the Central Coast Mariners. So we're going to talk to her about how all that started. It's just fantastic news for the area. So can't wait to talk about that. We're going to review how our teams went in the second round of the A-League men's competition. Some mixed results for the panel, let it be said. We're going to talk mascots for the Women's World Cup next year. It's in Australia, it's in New Zealand. We're going to have separate mascots, combine the two. Will it be a giant lamington? Who knows? And we're really going to get to the nitty-gritty today. Tomato sauce at football grounds. People charging for it now. Should it be free? The big issues are getting covered here on the front three today. Let me give you the hot tip. If you have not subscribed to our channel, can I invite you to do so? It helps with algorithms and stuff I read. So the more people that subscribe, the more we can get the word out there that we are talking football, and that can never be a bad thing for us fans here in Australia. Don't forget to hit that like button. How could you not like a video when it comes to the front three? And there's plenty of room for your comments. So if you've got an idea of mascots or you want to voice your opinion about tomato sauce, you let us know. There's plenty of room in the comments. We would love to hear from you. But that's enough of the chatter. The big issues await. It's time for the front three. And welcome back to the show. It's the front three, and your eyes don't deceive you. They're all in the same room, well, the same virtual room anyway. It's a bit more like the Brady Bunch this week than it has been in the past, but we better say hello to them. They're sitting waiting here patiently. Let's start with you, Hayley. You got a smile on your face despite Adelaide's result over the weekend, but which we'll talk about very, very soon. You're still the A-lister from Adelaide and the superstar from South Australia. How have you been, mate?
Yeah, pretty good. As I said in the first week, I totally expected us to start this way, so zero expectations.
Nostra Hayley. Love it. Loving all that. And Carly, you've been busy, flat out doing all the things you can do. We're going to talk about some massive Mariners news very, very shortly, but how have you been? You all good?
Yeah, really good. Obviously, it would have been better if we'd gotten the full 3 points the other day, but yeah, we'll take a draw. So
a point away from home. Always happy with that. And we'll leave Mel till last because her team had a bit of a win. That's why she's probably got the biggest smile and the shirt on. How are you, mate? You good?
I'm very well on this Monday. How are you, Marty?
Oh, mate, I'm always good. Always good. Always good catching up with you guys. We will cover those games off in a little bit more detail very, very soon. But it was already going to be a massive show. But it's a massive show. I've just made that word totally up. Today, here on the beautiful Central Coast, it was announced that the mighty Central Coast Mariners will have a team in the women's league year 23-24. So not this season, season after. Massive news for the club. It's just so exciting. Many people put in a lot of hard work to get it to this point, and we happen to be having one of them in the room with us today. Carly, you were there. Now, you'll test your memory because mine's shocking. I remember the meetings and the focus groups way back when you first started getting the ball rolling to develop this whole idea of getting the ladies team. How are you feeling about this today? You've got to be pretty proud sitting there.
Yeah, I think I'm still in shock because I just feel like, we had so many hurdles to overcome for the last few years. So when I came back from maternity leave after having my son, that was actually the project that I worked on. So I was strictly women's league trying to work out, how can we make it work? Look at budgets, look at training venues, look at going through and reading every single part of the rules to make sure that we could have what was required. It was a lot of work. And then obviously there are so many, they wanted to have a full home and away, then they wanted to get better TV rights and better this. And it sort of was, you're putting in all this work and you just think like, come on, like it really needs to eventuate. And then, I saw the news earlier this year when they said that we were provisional, or
Yeah.
I can't remember the actual term they used.
Yeah.
And then, Gabby from the Mariners sent me a text message today just letting me know. And I think I just like stared at it for a few minutes and I was like, what? Like, what? Just, like so amazing. And like you said, so many people at the Mariners put in so much time and effort to bring it all together. And meeting with all these people who are so invested and they wanted to see the club have a women's team, and the fact that it's all real now. Like, I think I'm still going to be like, I need to see them run out into the pitch, but
Absolutely.
it's it's such amazing news and such a credit to the hard work of everyone who's there, because I know how badly that club wanted it and what it's going to mean for their junior pathways coming through.
Oh, absolutely. And with the success that the academy's been having and all the local, the local leagues that, are playing, it's just such a good thing. For many years now, we speak to the junior boys playing, and I want to be a Maddie Simon, I want to be a John Hutchins, all the different years. And now the girls are going to have, I want to be a whoever we may sign and stuff like that. It's just such a good thing. When you were doing the meetings and the focus groups, I mean, I guess I know the answer myself, but there was just such a passion and a drive from the people on the Central Coast to really want this, wasn't there?
Yeah, and actually a lot of people who didn't probably follow A-League, they didn't follow the men's league. They just had a real passion for women's football. And so it was engaging a completely different audience, which is a huge benefit to the club, because you're going to attract all these different sponsors, different investors, different fans and members who are going to come to your game. Yeah. And I think that's only going to help the club grow more.
Oh, absolutely. And I was listening to, a lot of people talking about today. I saw that Sean said that they'll be playing at Central Coast Stadium. They'll be there under the palms and the inflatable sauce bottles, which is absolutely sensational. Just part of the club, and it just builds that demographic of the club. Now, and as you said, there'll be people who they may not have ever been to a Mariners game for the men's competition, who may now go, oh, now we've got the women's. It's all going to kind of mesh in together. And I mean, I know there was a team that was out there in Mariners back in the early days, but this is truly our team. And I can't wait for a double header, because I used to love sitting there for the 2 games back to back, just find my seat and, go for it. It was just a great day. Is that your hope, that there's, as much as they get their own identity within the club, but it's still together? It's still kind of like we can have our double headers and things like that. Is that the kind of hope, do you think?
Yeah, of course, because it all falls under the Mariners brand. And in my opinion, the women's team and men's team should be treated exactly the same, because you've got different kids who are going to be looking up to different role models. And, if you're going out to an event, you send someone from the men's and someone from the women's. It should be, it's all falling under that same brand. So, I guess, they've got to just try and make the most of it. And I'm sure they're going to have a lot of keen players that will want to be out in the community doing those things.
Oh, absolutely. And a longer playlist you're going to need now with the music. So more games to cover and stuff like that. Hayley, I know obviously, you're very well invested in the women's game as well. What does this do for the league? It's now a 22 round league for the whole put together. But what, from your perspective, does this do for the rest of the league?
Yeah, I mean, we can never argue with expansion, especially when it is from a pre-existing club who has the facilities, has the stadium, has the men's, even has that youth development, that academy product as well. So honestly, it's been a long time coming, and I think you had the backing of absolutely every club as well. And if there's another excuse to do Central Coast away, then hell yeah.
Well, plenty of people here will put you up for the night, unless you beat us and then you can walk home. But we'll sort that out. And actually, Carly, I was going to mention to you too, the first signing for the Mariners, the women's team, has been made. Annalise Rasmussen, who came through the academy. And I hope I've said that right. Apologies, Annalise, if I haven't. But I think that's just such a Mariners. It just identifies with us, because, we could have come out. There could have been a marquee signing and new team and all this. But this is someone who's come through the academy, Central Coast. It's just, I mean, Carly, you'll know because you talk to people. That's just Central Coast, right?
It is. And I know you say it could have been a marquee signing, but it's almost like a marquee signing in itself. The fact that it's, someone who has come through the academy and really put in that hard work for so many years, and to get that signing, like, I think that's so important. And you remember those people in the club's history. Damian Brown first signing for the Central Coast Mariners, people still love seeing Brownie around on the Central Coast. So, it's going to become a household name, and I couldn't be more happy for her.
No, it's absolutely fantastic. And Mel, just another excuse for you to come to the beautiful Central Coast Stadium as well, right?
Absolutely. I will say, definitely get the prize for the prettiest stadium around.
Oh, thank you.
But on a serious note, congrats, Carly, to yourself and everyone who is involved in that. Every single region needs and deserves a women's team. What a huge day in Australian football. Congrats, and I hope it goes well. I'm sure it will.
Oh, we'll be carving up the premierships. We'll be doing doubles before you know it. Just watch out. Not next season, because they don't start, but the one after that, watch out. And also, I was going to say too, Hayley, off the back of the Women's World Cup, so that's July, August next year, and then this team will be building and then kick off the next season. So timing-wise, there should be a lot of interest in the women's game. So probably perfect timing in that sense as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The best timing would have been years ago, but then the second best timing is now, following the momentum of the World Cup. And just touching on that signing of Annalise as well, that was the biggest thing that stood out to me today when I read the news of all of this, because we had, I'm not going to spend every show rubbing salt in old wounds and reopening them for you, Marty, but we had MacArthur poach Tommy Orr from you guys with their inaugural signing, and you're a bit like, ugh, when that happens. So
True.
But Annalise to come through as a product of your academy, like that's just awesome.
Yeah, it's just, and as I said, it's just so Central Coast. It's just so community. It's so identifies with what we've been doing, and as I said, and as Carly mentioned before, I mean, I know Sean, CEO, put out a lot of media today, but to sort of thank so many people who aren't no longer at the club, people who are currently still there. This has been just such a mammoth job to get this over the line. So I mean, to have Carly here tonight was just perfect timing, which was great, being the very much one of those first people getting those wheels in motion. So look, we're looking forward to it. Can't wait for that all to kick off, and we'll definitely be doing as much as we can on this show to promote the Mariners women's team as they get ready for the season next year. But it'll come around.
Carly, if Carly's team looking for a marquee goalkeeper, I got my jersey ready to go.
Oh, well, have you seen Carly in goals? I mean, this.
I was going to say, if you want to play for Carry On Women's All Age 3, we could use another goalkeeper to do swap in and swap out. So,
look, I didn't say I was talented, but
neither am I.
I've got my jersey ready to go. I look the part.
Welcome to Transfers Live. Here we go. Got people signed up for Carry On already. Well, they've got their AGM going on tonight, so I'm sure I can let them know they've got some signings happening as we go. So fantastic news. Also on the men's side, because they're actually kicking a ball in anger at the moment too. And Mel, we'll start with you. We'll put you out of, not put you out of misery, because I know you love to talk about Sydney. You got a win, 3-1 against Western. Probably the less said about Western at the moment. They've had a couple of shockers, but Sydney have had two big games, the Big Blue and now Western. 3-1. What did you make of the game?
The first half was lackluster, I think, by their own admission, they'll say that. But the second half looked really promising. I thought it was a great win overall. It was solid. Our foreign signings are looking very strong, which is fantastic. Joe Lolly, he really sparked that attack, which is what we've been lacking the last couple of seasons. He won man of the match, and I think it was quite deserved. He got a great goal, and he was in it everywhere. Even the week before, he was around. So my biggest concern in our first show before the season started was that, I guess I worry for his fitness, being he's had a lot of injuries since 2016. If he can stay fit, he will absolutely prove me wrong, and I absolutely hope he does, because he's proved to have a lot of talent. I predicted Mac was going to be a great signing, and he's followed through with that as well.
Absolutely.
He had a nice goal yesterday, and to me, his pedigree, as I mentioned in the first show, seems very similar to, or the closest I think that we're going to get to replace Ninkovic.
Yep.
They have both very good feet. Max even had more international appearances. Wow. So he's looking very exciting for the team. I thought it was, like I said, a solid win.
Yep.
And the week before, whilst we lost, I have Melbourne Victory to win the competition, so I don't think there's any shame in losing to Melbourne Victory. And again, the week before was a great performance. So I guess for me, I'm super pleased that their performance and the standard has lifted greatly from the last 2 seasons. So the results will come. And as I mentioned as well, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. This is the most different Sydney FC team we've seen in quite a while. I'm going to say about 6 years.
Yep.
You know, and I know I'm going to probably harp on about Ninkovic not being there. It is what it is, but let's not deny he was a big part of that team.
Yep.
It was built around him. So it's going to take a while to start over and rebuild, and the signs are looking fabulous already. So I'm actually really pleased with what I've seen, even though it's been 1 loss and 1 win.
Absolutely. And I did see a headline, someone wrote that Lolly scores as Sydney take the chocolates, and I thought that was really, really cool, but they can't use that now for the rest of the year, so they've sort of done it second round in.
Yeah, there's going to be, I'll tell you what, there's going to be some great headlines with that name.
There was something about a sweet strike as well and all this sort of stuff. But
yeah, sweet Lolly, I think that's what I put up. So yeah, he's got the name, and hopefully he's got the goods.
Absolutely. Well, far smarter people than me will make up headlines like that. But we'll, you guys got Adelaide next, which we'll talk about very, very soon. But Hayley's itching to get in and talk about Adelaide's performance. I don't think they were totally outplayed, outclassed, played off the park. But what did you make of the game yourself?
Well, we all know the aim of the game is to get the ball into the back of the net. So on that premise, we actually won.
Right.
No further questions on the matter.
Don't forget the laws of the game.
Yeah, no, just the ball was there. I saw it. But yeah, 2 offside goals, no issue with those. I personally think the hero goal should have stood. I feel like he was just penalised for being tall, and Aspro kind of ducked, and it was a foul, but meh.
The old height rule.
Yeah, which I wouldn't know about, but yeah, hero is like nearly 2 meters tall, I think. So yeah, that should have stood, but at the end of the day, I'm not blaming that on the result or anything. Yeah. But same old Adelaide, all possession, all the shots on target, unable to convert. Issues, with potency up front. Yep. But also issues in our midfield, which is a strange one for us, because I feel like normally every season we're like, we need a striker or we need a defender, and our midfield has normally been pretty solid. Yep. But it seems like there's just something going on there at the moment. When Izzy came back, we were like, yay, Izzy's back. But I think perhaps we need to start thinking of a succession plan there, because, him and One Day just a bit too similar, I think. So one of the goals, Izzy had all the space in the world, and he still turned the ball over, and then it led to a goal for MacArthur. So, that's a space we need to look at, I reckon. But as per my predictions in the first episode, I did say, we'll finish 4th or 5th at the end of the season, because we always dick around at the start of the season. That is exactly what we're doing.
Nailed it.
Yeah, we're dicking around. That's the headline. That's my expert analysis.
There you go. I'll quote that, and that'll be the lead for next show. That's great.
Yeah. So hopefully we do pick up with a result soon, but we're very used to not collecting a dub for quite a few rounds when the season starts. And then, of course, week 1, we couldn't even beat a 10-man team. There were 10 men for 65 minutes. And, we had Viet time, and Halloran scored in the 93rd, but we can't keep doing that every week.
Doesn't work. Well, that's a nice segue. Since we're now in Wellington, we can say where the Central Coast Mariners were. Great job, Hayley. You should be in media. He says with a smile. Carly, if you'd have said to me before the game, you're going to travel to Wellington and take a point, I would have gone, yes. Mm-hmm. If then when I'm watching the game and we go 1-0 down, will you definitely take that point? I would have gone, hell yes. Mm-hmm. Then when we go 2-1 up and we're not long to go, I'm thinking, no, we need the 3 points. And in the end, they scored, and we end up happy with a point. The travelling to New Zealand, I mean, it's good that New Zealand got a couple of games at home in a row. I think that was the first time since I think Jason Pine said on the commentary, it's 2 or 3 years, or obviously before COVID, that they'd actually had back-to-back games at home. You're someone that deals with a lot of home games and stuff like that. The staff themselves that put the work in for those home games, it must be a little bit easier, right? If you're going back to back, it must be, rather than being away and then you've got 2 weeks till the next game and stuff like that, they would have appreciated a couple of games in a row, surely.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think people understand, I guess, that home ground advantage. I know everyone talks about it, but for them, that Wollongong was never really their home. It was just they had to be there because of circumstances that are beyond everyone's control. And I also think about everyone, always thinks about the players and everything who spent, those seasons over here.
Yep.
But also you got to think about all those backroom staff that gave up time away from their family. And it kind of feels like they've got this renewed energy now because they're back where they belong. They're back in familiar territory. They're with their families. And you know what? They can actually get if they want, a full stadium of people to support them, and they're all going to be Wellington fans and they're all going to be there cheering them. And that, I think, makes a huge difference. Still would have liked us to have gotten the 3 points. As much as I'm happy for them, would have been nice, but,
don't like them that much.
Share them. Yeah.
I mean, Sammy Silvera gets a cracker of a goal, beats 2-3 players, cuts inside, brilliant finish. And our good friend, Mr. Cumdog, he got one disallowed for offside, which was right. Don't even start me on VAR because we're coming to that next, Mel. Get yourself ready. But his second goal, a chip, which was better than Ben Wayne's chip because he did it at an angle. It was a lot harder to do. So two great goals. The boys actually put a lot of good stuff together. But, I mean, I think you're right. We would have been, ecstatic to get the 3 points. I just think in the end, maybe that factor of not playing in that first week just sort of just led to it.
Yeah. So. And I think it's, you couldn't start it off at a more peak A-League way. You got the first games being washed out. The second game's got an unbelievable goal that's not a goal. Then you've got the longest VAR in the world. Yeah. And we'll settle down and we'll get into it as of next week.
Yeah. Hayley says they're dicking around. We say, that's our answer to that. So,
We're dicking around too.
We're all just dicking around.
Everyone thinks that's I was going to say that could be the theme for the next A-League women's season, but we can't really say that either. It's probably not the go either. But anyway, moving on real fast. So next week, Sydney are at home to Adelaide. Hayley.
Hi, Hayley.
What are you going to do at training this week, Hayley? Is it just a stick with it? We just got to do things better, or will there be changes?
I think I hope Craig is just working on his fitness and so he can play a full 90 because he's quite often just our biggest outlet to goal. So, hopefully he's fit. And also if he's trying to get onto that plane to Qatar, then, score a goal. But
All three.
Well, I think Craig Goodwin scoring a goal against Sydney is always a given, isn't it?
Yeah, and us always losing away to Sydney is always a given to it.
Yes, welcome to Hayley Loves Adelaide show. She's all over it.
I just want to see us win in Sydney once.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, Mel, it'll be same team, same sort of thing from Corica. I don't think I'll want to deviate too much from last week, will he?
No, I don't think so. No, I can't see that happening. I think our positions are pretty much set. Obviously, we've got Alex Wilkinson injured, so Gerd steps in for him. He was probably a little bit nervous in the first half, understandably, youngster. Big shoes to fill as well.
True.
But no, I think overall the performance was sound. I don't really think there's a lot to change. And actually, I was surprised at Robert Mack coming off in the 62nd minute.
Yeah, did say, yep. Half an hour ago.
Robert Mack was subbed off, and there was a question mark there for me. There are a couple of other people having a bit of a talk about it. We just hope that he's not injured. That wouldn't be great so early on, particularly when the team are getting used to one another and starting to gel.
Yep.
So hopefully it's the same starting lineup that we saw on the weekend, and we can produce, much the same. Sorry, Hayley.
Not going to give you 2 penalties. Sorry.
So give me a prediction, Mel. What's the score going to be? Don't be nice. She's only above you there.
I'm always honest. You know that. Okay. Score predictions. I'm going to go maybe 3-1 again to Sydney.
Nice. Hayley?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, but I think we won't
right.
win. I think we'll lose 2-1.
2-1. Okay, well, at least you've got a goal. So
and it's not a blowout. It's
absolutely.
respectable.
And you get to play in a nice, pretty stadium too.
True. Not as pretty as ours, but.
Well, it's not as pretty as ours, but look, trying to make her feel welcome here, so that's fine. Okay, and the Mariners are at home to Perth. I was going to say no rain dances, no nothing. All fingers crossed that everything will go ahead. It's 5 o'clock on a Sunday, which is a good time to get down to the ground. Straight after your game too. So we'll be able to watch yours in the club first and head on over. So hopefully we get a game, and hopefully it'll be 3 points for the Mariners' first game at home for the year. Right, Martin has a bitch time. VAR. Okay, I'm done with it. I'm absolutely over it. And I could be here for 4 hours doing my own little thing here, but let me cut to the chase. Look, this has nothing to do with anything in particular. We talked about, Mr. Cumdog's overhead kick and it was offside and VAR. My issue with that was it took 4.5 minutes in the game to actually find a result, right? I always thought, and you always get told, that VAR is all about the howler, the massive mistake, and the referee didn't see a handball and he goes, "Oh yeah, you sneaky player, there you go, that's free kick." How can it take 4.5 minutes to watch a pretty blatant, it's come off the defender, then the attacker, yep, he's offside, blow it straight away? The crowd had no idea what was going on. They were just like 4.5 minutes of, there must be something pending. The players are standing around for 5 minutes going, what are they doing? What are they doing? To me, if you can't see it in a couple of replays, it's not a howler. It's not a big error. Keep the goal line technology, the ball's over the line or not, that's black and white, that's definitive. Keep it, love it. But to me, the VAR, it takes the wind out the sails of a game. Teams are scoring goals. The home crowd or whatever goes up, they think fantastic, and then there's this dead pause. And then eventually, if the goal's given, everyone goes, "Oh, thank God." There's more of a relief than a cheer. It just takes so much out of it. And I don't go with the argument that it always gets it right, because I still think we see referees and who are up there looking at it, and they're slowing it down, and there's different angles. And Carly, you'll probably tell me, is there a rule that the cameras have to be in certain places at the ground, or is it just where the ground can have them?
Oh, look, there are places where they need to be. I'm not totally across exactly what the rules are, but look, I 100% agree that it takes too long, especially the communication. I mean, when you're watching at home, it's not that, I mean, it's bad, but it's not that bad, because at least, they're showing you the replay and you can sit to the person next to you and go, "Bloody hell, look at that. Yeah, that was shit. That shouldn't have happened."
Yeah.
When you're at the stadium, you're completely blind. You're sitting there wondering what's going on. If you've got a small child with you, they're going, Mum, what's happening?" And you're like,
"Why's everyone stopped?"
Don't know. And you also got to feel for the players, because they've had this momentum for, it could be, the majority of a game. And then suddenly they're having to stop, muscles are cooling down. And, I'm not a professional athlete, but I know how hard it is to start running again once I've stopped. So
how hard it is first up in time, really. So,
And no, I 100% agree. And I think the way they do it in rugby league is so much better, because they have that communication. You've got the one person there and they're explaining, this was, I don't know NRL properly, so if I get the terminology wrong, I apologize, but it's not a try because so-and-so did a knock on and this person did that. And so everyone in the stadium's going, "Oh, okay, okay." They might not agree with it, but at least then they've got that understanding of what's actually happening. Whereas you're right. And I know they used to have, up on the screen with, trial, VAR pending and things like that. But it also depends on the stadium, because sometimes they might take I was going to say Fox feed, the Paramount feed, which will have it on there. But then you've got some stadiums that don't, so they're left completely clueless. But 4.5 minutes. That's just,
it was mental.
Nah.
Yeah. And to me, and Hayley, and you get the final say, Mel, so we're firing up for you. But Hayley, I just think that, as well as all week, there are clubs right now. There's people in Sydney, Sydney FC going, "We've got a home game against Adelaide this week." The Mariners we've got a home game this week. They're doing everything they can to get bums on seats, come to the game, come and sit down, enjoy the atmosphere, all this sort of stuff. To me, this just deflates that. It just means that people are just sitting here. And don't get me wrong, there's not VAR in every single game, and I get that. And they don't all go for 4.5 minutes and stuff like that too. But it just seems to be that, something happens on the field, and then there's like this dead pause, and people are just like, "What was it? How are we going to check?" and all this. And any atmosphere or any energy that was generated by a goal is gone. So, I mean, is that how you see it, or do you see something different?
No, everything you said, I totally agree with, except you said you're done with it. I was never with it in the first.
I thought we should have started with that, yeah.
I really don't like it. It's just another level of subjectivity. You're just adding another person's interpretation of the rules on top of it. So I totally support what you're saying about goal line technology. You know, something like Hawkeye, it's objective, there's measurements, you know, you can't argue with that. But when you've just got another person watching another screen and putting forward their thoughts or their interpretation of the rules of the game, then yeah, I can't get behind that. And it's like you said, at the stadium, it's the worst. And you're all of a sudden, you're trying to get on your phone, you're trying to look at Twitter, what are people saying is even wrong half the time.
Yeah.
It just kills it. And if you've got someone who's never come to a game before and they're sitting next to you and they're like, what's going on? You're like, I don't know either. That's not very, very good for the game. And I also dislike the argument where, you know, sometimes when it gets it right, they're like, oh, that's really good because the linesman didn't flag. Well, they've been told not to. So how do we know that they wouldn't have called that anyway? We don't know anymore. So yeah, you can't say, oh, that was a howler because they didn't put the flag up. They probably wanted to, they just couldn't. So yeah,
I mean,
I'm happy without it.
Also, just saying what you were going with, Marty, like at the Mariner Stadium, we've got the cannon. The amount of times you go, oh, let's get the cannon ready and do the countdown. And then suddenly it's like VAR and you're like,
hold the cannon.
And then, you know,
like
10 minutes.
Ric Flair's too early, because
and then 10 minutes later they go, oh, it's a goal, you can do it. And you're like, do you really want to fire the cannon now when everyone's like, and then you're like, oh, we'll do it anyway. And then the cannon goes off and everyone goes, why'd the cannon go off? And
the game's restarted. And the right back who happens to be standing there absolutely craps himself and goes, what the hell is that? Thinks that someone's sniping him from the away fans. So, all right, Mel, why are we wrong? No pressure.
No, you're not wrong. I agree with all of you in that, yes, it takes away from the moment. I can totally appreciate that. Like Carly was saying, you know, there needs to be better communication, whether it's through a speaker or something like that, because you're right, in other codes, that communication is kept open and people can follow.
Yep.
You know, so they make it, their mind is more open and they can understand that decision-making process a lot clearer when they can hear what's going on. So absolutely, yes, I agree with you in that sense. It needs to be utilised better.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's where I agree with all of you. But do I think it's needed in the game? Yes, I absolutely do. And the reason that I think it's needed in the game is that, look, there's no perfect solution. Okay, there's not going to be any perfect scenario. But I think with technology, you're going to have more of a chance of being able to get it right than you would with human error. And this is maybe the teacher in me, you know, wanting to make sure that everything is fair and everything is picked up in the best way possible. And I just think, like I said, yes, the time that it goes for is ridiculous in some cases. And that's what I'm saying. It's going to be utilised better.
Yeah.
But I think that there's going to be more chance, you know, of something being picked up via technology than the human eye, particularly, you know, in a quick game like football. That's where, you know, like I know personally, I'm going to be most content if I know my team has won the game fair and square than people, you know, going up in arms because my team won 2-1 in a finals match and we were offside. So, you know, and I'm going to take a loss a lot better knowing that we've had every chance to look at it as best way possible. And if it comes down to, you know, a grand final being determined like that, I'm happy to wait 5 minutes. That's my take on it. I just think, I do believe that it's needed in the modern game, but I think that it needs to be utilised better.
Okay.
That's my take on it.
I think, you know, when it comes to, say, red card challenges and things like that, they shouldn't get to watch it in slow-mo. They should have to just watch it in real time and make a decision because everything looks worse in slow-mo.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
agreed there. Yeah.
The guy who was, I forget his name, who was sent off for Melbourne City. And send off, right, stay there at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, just standing there. It's so awkward.
The game stopped. He's standing there. The poor referee's copping an earful from someone, then goes to the TV screen. He's got Patrick Kaznorbo on one side going, yap, 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 yap. They shouldn't be able to do that either. That's just another total point. He's got spectators behind the actual screen yelling at him, and how can you make a decision and all that sort of stuff? And in the end, he just said, no, we're keeping it, and that's just the end of it. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Mel, about getting the right result. But I think, obviously I'm a little bit older than you guys. I'm very old school when it was like, referees would referee a game. You know what? Sometimes you got decisions, sometimes you didn't. You accepted it. And I don't know what you reckon, Carly. I think we're losing respect for our referees on the field. And we're seeing it a lot playing out because we kind of expect now that they're going to get the decision right. Beforehand, it was like, if the referee gave a free kick, okay, sir, that's a free kick. If he went against you, you just went with it because he gave that. Now they're making decision, and then VR saying, you might have stuffed this up. And he's coming back saying, sorry, boys, got that one wrong. And then we're trying. Are we kind of just not helping our referees on the field by the system too?
Yeah, definitely. And like, I mean, I don't know if all the referees are full-time referees these days. I know sort of we had a couple and then the rest of them were sort of, mixing in with other things. But, they're trying to do the best they can on the field. Absolutely. And yet, you know what? Some things happen and you don't understand, like you don't know for sure whether it's like, a red card or if it's a penalty or that. But like you said before, they should be able to, it should either be whoever's up in the VAR goes, yep, that's actually wrong, turn it over and give them the free kick or whatever it is.
Yep.
Or there should be a time limit on, okay, he doesn't have to sit there and listen to everyone talk in his ear. He can either go over and check the screen and make the decision for himself, or the person up in the box makes the decision, tells him what it is. It's kind of like, I guess, when I'm trying to, I don't know, if you're at a job and suddenly you've done something wrong, your boss will come in and say, no, that's wrong. We do it like this.
Yeah.
Like it's not, let's go back and forth and discuss it and look at 4 different angles. And it's either,
you're not a teacher, are you, Carly?
No. I mean, the laws of the game are so open to interpretation anyway, even like what's a handball? Like everyone has their own different things. So what the person up in the box is going to think is a handball might be different, but it could still be the same rule because that's just how they're, how someone's told them it is. So it's just shit and just get rid of
it. That's the second quote from the show.
I'm going to keep it.
And the thing is,
that's all right. Sydney actually love the VAR.
Seriously.
Yeah. No, as I said, I do get, because there's obviously, especially overseas, there's a lot more bigger money on games, and those split decisions can mean someone finishing 4th in the division and 6th, and that could be millions of dollars. And I get that. I absolutely understand why they're trying to get to where they're getting to. I just think that, as Carly just said, football is a game of interpretation. And if a referee says that was handball, it's a handball. If he thinks it was accidental, it's accidental. You get a different referee in there, he might say, actually, no, I actually think that was that. And I'm okay with that because every player is different. Every striker plays different. Every goalkeeper is different. Like, they do different things. So to me, I just think it takes that human side out of it. And I just think we're not helping our referees on the field by, and even last night at the start of the Arsenal-Leeds game, they didn't have the communications to be able to start the game because there was no power. So it wasn't just a case of the referee said, oh, sorry, I've got a whistle and 2 assistants on the side, we can go. Legally, they couldn't start the game because they didn't have the communications. And that to me is like, wow. I mean, I couldn't imagine that happening in England back in the day. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. I hope that we just don't get controversial decisions, but we just know that we will. But I hope we get more of the better ones than we look at and go, you looked at that 20 times and you still haven't got it right. But anyway, we will move on. But we respect your opinion, Mel, being a teacher at all. You told us well. Hayley, you were talking earlier, I think it was on Twitter, about mascots for the World Cup next year, being in New Zealand and Australia. So tell me, are they trying to get a mascot that is good for both? Are they not going to have one each?
I assume that there's just one. Yeah. So I was trying to think of, I really hope it is not an animal and some weird half cat dog thing going on. I really hope they've steered away from that. But then honestly, I don't know what else they'll do. But then I was thinking, because I don't know if you've seen the 2030 Men's World Cup bids, the country bids. There's a lot of 3 country bids.
Right.
And 2 of them kind of make sense, and then the 3rd country just doesn't. So there's Spain, Portugal, and Ukraine. So what's that, like an anti-Russia mascot? Like Egypt, Greece, Saudi Arabia. Like, what is this? So what are their mascots? It's just It's wild.
They could go down like the Melbourne City like route. You know how they had 4 mascots at one stage? There was that slug-looking thing. And
a weird thing with red hair and
like they could do that and just have like a whole bunch of like random mascots that don't. I'm sure they make sense to Melbourne City, but they still don't make sense to me.
Oh no, Hayley! I saw was it a lamington that you put up? That was the scariest looking thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's the South Australian lamington. That's why I had that picture on hand.
My God. Talk about keep the kids away from the game.
What is this giant chocolate box here?
Exactly. And who are you cheering for? I don't know what you're doing. Mel, like when we're talking mascot, obviously it's just to, put on the key rings and help sell T-shirts and stuff like that. I mean, does anything stand out to you? Just think it should be the whole, go the boxing kangaroo and the whole Kiwi bird kind of thing? Keep it simple, do you think? Or are they going to make something up that we're going to go, what is that?
I don't mind the wildlife being a symbol. I don't. I would prefer one from Australia, one from New Zealand. I'd prefer, it's both of our identities. Yep. So I don't mind it. I mean, Hayley, if you don't want the animal, what would you be looking at?
We could go a Viking.
Well, I think I'd put forward common things, but they have weird names in New Zealand. So we have the esky, they have the chili bin. So something like that.
A big jandal.
Yes.
There we go. Oh, look.
Let's not confuse the world with what we call a thong.
That would be a hell of a mascot.
Yes.
And when are they expecting to release the mascots?
Wednesday. So I can't wait.
Oh, wow. So soon. That's awesome.
So coming up on the next episode of The Front Three, we'll be
how wrong we were.
And it won't be a lamington. We know it won't be a lamington. So just speaking of World Cups, the men's kicks off in less than a month now. Carly, are you looking forward to the World Cup? Because to me, I'm one of those guys who gets the sticker book and I get all the World Cup stickers, and I've done it all my life, and I really annoy my wife because I get the chart out with all the groups and I put it up on the lounge room wall, and I'm one of them guys. This year I'm kind of like, it's soon. It just doesn't seem to be as much. I mean, I'm guessing venue has a lot to do with it. What are you thinking to do with the World Cup?
Yeah, I guess for me, I just also don't think I realise how fast this year's gone. Like we're nearly at the end of October already, and someone mentioned the World Cup, and I was like, oh yeah, that's not for ages. And I'm like, oh no, it's actually next month. Yeah. So yeah, I guess for me, I think I'm looking at it a different way this year. I mean, in previous years, I've gone to the live sites and been at pubs and done all of that. This year, I've got my son who's 6. So, he's been playing soccer now for 2 years. Yep. He understands the best he can, the game. And he's actually starting to show that little bit more interest in it. So it is going to be more about, watching the games when we can. And if the games are at weird times, we go, let's make a big deal of it and pick one game to stay up and watch or something like that. So it's actually nice to be able to enjoy it in a different way. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really enjoy the pubs and I think it was one year we went to the live site down in Circular Quay and we were sitting free watching, I think, Australia versus Italy, or I had a lot of
irrelevant.
Someone was playing. And I've got all those fantastic memories of memories of like those, and I'm actually excited for Theo to have those as well. Obviously, not the drinking side of it, but to be able to grow up and go, the time when I got to stay up and watch Australia win and all of this. So it's I guess I'm looking forward to it more in that way, is that it's creating new memories, and people have to realize that you've got a new generation coming through, and now's really the time that we've got to capture them to make them fans of the sport. Then they become fans of the A-League. It's amazing the amount of kids who play football who don't watch it.
Absolutely.
And it's the perfect opportunity. So I'm just hoping that, as many people as they can will switch on their TVs when they need to and watch those games. And even if you don't have an idea who the players are, just watch, enjoy, learn. It's such an opportunity for everyone.
Exactly. And just switch off when VAR makes their long decisions. Anyway, Hayley, you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I mean, I want it to be now and not in 38 days' time, because I can't stand another 38 days of people saying Azani should be on the plane.
Oh, really? Have people been saying that? I haven't heard that. Has that been spoken about?
It's been touted quite a bit. But I don't know if you guys saw that FIFA have set up this process where the clubs can claim $10,000 a day for players who are away with the national team.
Right.
And the clubs who they've been with for the past 2 years are eligible. So for Adelaide, really need Goodwin, Strain and McGree to really get into that team. I just know this is going to feed into the conspiracy of Arnie picking Sydney players and making that club rich.
Don't be silly. Don't be silly. Oh my God.
Mel's not laughing, but
just thinking of her response. Mel says, we'll go back to the mascots again.
Yeah, back to the big Lamington.
Absolutely, yeah. But it just has a different feel. Mel, are you the same? Were you a big World Cup watcher? Can't wait to see it. Does it feel the same this year? It just feels this time of year as well. It just seems just weird.
Yeah, obviously it's different. But don't get me wrong, I'm excited. It's the creme de la creme of football. What's there not to be excited about?
Yeah.
I do love my sleep though, so that's sort of something that conflicts there.
Does overrule
it. I will arise for Australia.
Yeah.
And my other two favourite teams are the Netherlands and England. And it's funny, I always put my money on those two, but I will say the last World Cup, I also put my $50 on France. So I cleaned up there.
Wow.
But
betting tips
that was
with Mel.
I think my pick this year, I think England. I think England are going to do it.
Harry Kane and the boys.
Yeah, I'm going to go England, and I'm just very excited to watch their games. They're the ones that I wait for. I don't watch every game. I'm not going to lie, because, like I said, just mainly the time difference.
Sleep. Yep.
And I just think it seems like Netherlands are always almost there, but can never really take it out. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Something I know too well.
Yep.
Maybe that's why I like them.
Oh.
Only with one of your teams, Mel. Only with one.
Can't have it all.
Don't bring up Parramatta, whatever you do.
No. But let's just move right along from there.
Yep.
But I have a good feeling about England this year.
Okay. Nice. All right. Well, we'll soon know. There will be a Marty Mariner World Cup special preview program. Free plug there on what's on my own channel, but doesn't really matter. That'll be coming up in the next few weeks, so that'll be exciting, where I'm sure we'll tip every wrong result and probably tip totally wrong winners, but that's okay. That's what we do. So to wrap up, we're going to end up with the biggest topic, and I've saved it till the end. Carly, are you telling me that they charge you 50 cents for sauce now at the Central Coast Stadium? After we have the biggest sauce bottles in the world, and you're telling me we pay 50 cents for these little things?
Well, I think I was just more in shock, because I know that the sauce at the stadium's been free for God knows how long. And then I started to question it, going, or have I just been stealing sauce?
Oh.
But I just thought, obviously we're waiting for, the game to or not go ahead.
Yep.
And went to the concession stand, got myself some chips, paid for it, and then I went, oh, actually, can I grab some sauce? Yep. And she was like, oh yeah, it's 50 cents.
Wow.
And I was like, oh. But then I realised that I only had my phone and I didn't want to tap for 50 cents. It's like, oh, that just a bit, And I went, oh, just don't worry about it. And then I was just thinking about it, and I was like, oh, it's just, it just seems like sauce price has gone up a lot. I don't know if it's the same in every other stadium, but it was,
Hayley, are you sauce merchants out at Adelaide Way? Is this a thing?
It's always been free at High Marsh, but unless it's a this season thing, a new surcharge. But while we're complaining about food at the stadium, I feel like this is a forum for me to get this off my chest.
Okay.
There's this hot dog stand at Cooper's that says hot dogs with gourmet toppings, and it's just mustard and ketchup. And as much as I do like tomato sauce, it's not gourmet topping. It's not a sprinkle of bacon on top.
Right.
So
is it Master Foods or Heinz ketchup?
Oh, what's the little squeezy packets?
Oh, Master Foods. That is gourmet when it comes to tomato sauce.
I have been mistaken.
Nothing plug there for Master.
Can't beat Master Foods.
Send me free sauce. I need some.
See, I don't even know why there's not sort of a smaller version of the blow-up that actually you can get sauce from. Like you can walk down past the canteen thing there, and you should just be able to go get as much as you want because.
I've seen some of those sauce bottles that have been used by people, and there's stuff dripping down the sides, and it's not.
No,
it's
a solid pass from Carly.
Yeah.
Mel, being in Sydney, when you go and buy your caviar and all that sort of stuff that you guys eat at that stadium, do you get sauce as well?
Well, this is probably a good place for me to finish on the topic because I have very minimal to contribute to this topic. I don't eat sauce at all, ever, on anything. Shock horror. Yeah. My students are just in absolute disbelief and just can't imagine how difficult life must be for me. What eating food without sauce. It must be harder than being a vegan. Go, no, I just don't want things without sauce.
Wow.
However, it is a little bit difficult at the football because I can't order a burger. They won't custom make there. It's just sorry, busy game day, take it or leave it. Okay. So I'm a little bit limited with my options, but I don't eat sauce. So guess what? I'm going to be able to save for a deposit for a house.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't have sauce on the plate, that means you actually get to taste the food. And what's the point of that?
Exactly my point, Marty. Like if you smother something in sauce, all you're tasting is sauce. You don't taste the food.
As my mum has always said, a good dollop of tomato sauce will make any dish good. So you can just blanket the whole lot. So it's the only way to go. So, all right, well, we will investigate this further because, in future rounds, we'll find out where people have been and we're going to I'm going to find out Sunday. I'm going to go to Central Coast Stadium and I'm going to just not buy anything and just get a sachet of sauce and see how much it cost me. I'll report back on that one. Thanks, ladies, for joining me. It's been a lot of fun to get you all together and to have a bit of a chat. We will do it again very, very shortly. Thanks to everyone who's been tuning in. I'm sure you'll do it again soon. I mean, who wouldn't with these guys on board? And that is our show for today. A massive thank you again to my front three of Mel, of Carly and Hayley for taking the time to have a chat with us today. All those big issues. What fantastic news that is coming out of the Central Coast. A women's team being entered into the A-League Women's Competition 23-24. Cannot wait for that. And we will bring you all the news that we can when it comes to the progression of the team, any signings, any news that is coming out. We will make sure that we have that covered here to let you know all about it. As I said at the start of the video, we would love to invite you to subscribe to the channel. The more the merrier. Come join the family. And as I said, I think it helps with things like algorithms and spreading the word, spreading the love about this great game of football here in Australia. If you like the video, hit that like button. Just lets me know it's the kind of program that you do like to see. And we'll definitely have the front three on again very, very shortly. And as I said, also, there's a comment section if you want to make those comments about tomato sauce. And don't forget mustard too. We can't forget that. So plenty of room. Make comment. Let us know what you think. What's it like at your home ground? Do you get charged for it? Is this a new thing? We just need to get to the bottom of this. Thank you so much for watching. We will have another episode of the MartyMariner Show later on this week. Very, very special guest coming up. Can I give you a clue? Yeah, might be recently retired, but he's going to be here on the MartyMariner Show later this week. Matty Simon is joining me for a bit of a chat, a bit of a chinwag, a bit of a conversation, and really looking forward to catching up with Matt and talking to him how this last month or so has been for him. Really tough time for the fella. So look forward to catching up with him then. Thanks so much for watching us all the way through to the end. Really appreciate it. It's been the MartyMariner Show.